Hey everybody, this is Miriam Mick, and you have reached the live chat with howtoliveintopeace.com, How to Live Into Peace, the Facebook group. I hope you have found the live course on, the free course on howtoliveintopeace.com. Just takes your email sign in, and you'll be getting those one email at a time for 7 days. Would love for you to do that, because what we chat about sometimes builds on that information that's in that free course. We're talking today about how to live into peace in nature, how to find peace in nature. And this is an odd time to be talking about this because we're 1 week after Harvey has hit Texas and the rains in Louisiana, the worst storm on the continental United States ever recorded. And we've got Irma in the Atlantic. We're watching Irma just now beginning to head toward the island, still way out, so we don't know the path. And please God, may it just go north and go away and go out to sea. That is our prayer. So there might be some of you who find nature the very least peaceful thing to think about at all because of the natural disasters that have occurred. In the Carolinas, certainly, all over the world. But tonight, what we're talking about is the peace that we can find in nature. And here's the danger. Those of us who are 60 and over, we grew up outside. Our parents let us go out and wanted us to stay out of the house until supper time or until our chore time. And so we grew up sweating and being out in the air, and those of us in the South just got used to being out a lot. So what has happened over time, the more technologically advanced we become and the more available computer or iPad or whatever is available for children, if you're children or grandchildren are like mine, they love to be on that computer, on the wherever Minecraft is. That's where they want to be, and they download games, and that is their leisure time activity. It's difficult to get them to go outside. They may not live in a neighborhood you feel comfortable with them going outside. And so what has happened is what Robert Louv begins to call the nature deficit disorder. This is not an official diagnosis, but it is what is happening. And this article that I'm looking at came out in 2005. And what he's saying is that the less we are outside, the more likely we are to have attention deficit disorder or have issues and anxieties related to not being in the open air, not being outside. And so let me just share a little bit of this with you. If you've listened to some of the other chats, what you know is that these resources have come to me, and pretty much I am sharing with you what has been shared with me over time, so that these are resources, hopefully, that can serve your peace, can help you understand, oh, there's another thing I can do to bring more peace into my life. So here's what he says. And he wrote a book called Last Child in the Woods. And that's where he describes the nature deficit disorder. Nature deficit disorder is a way to describe the psychological, the physical, and the cognitive cost of human alienation from nature, particularly for children in their vulnerable developmental years. It's important to get our young kids outside, to get to know the earth, which in many ways is our mother. That's a traditional way of thinking about it. Traditionally, God created this earth for us to live, and our job may be to bring peace as it is in heaven onto earth. That may be our primary purpose. If we're not in touch with the part of us, it's like being in an environment are being alienated from the very environment in which we thrive, like an ocean animal being out of the water. We're like fish out of water if we're not in nature. So here's some of the other things that he says. If we don't love the earth, if we don't love the animals, this very environment that we are dependent on, if we don't understand it, know it, how are we possibly going to get to a place where we want to protect it, where we want to guard it from the dangers? We're not going to get into the politics of global warming. I'll let you sort that out for yourself. But even if you are the very most conservative person, you understand that the earth is our home. And if we don't take care of our home environment and the way the delicate balances are that work with the oxygen coming off the green, off the trees and the grass, and the carbon dioxide coming out of us that the trees and the plants need, we're in a symbiotic relationship with the earth. And so we need to know it, to love it, to get the peace that even the vibrations, they say every part of the earth vibrates differently. So when you go to Hawaii, there's that kind of congenial vibration of the earth and of the people that live in Hawaii. The different parts of the world vibrate differently. And so there's a part of us that resonates with where we live, or doesn't seem to resonate with it. And so we know in general the places that we resonate with, where there's beauty. Generally there's green, although there's canyon lands and all kinds of environments in which we can thrive. There's some, since his 2005 article, there are several movements. One is called No Child Left Inside, to get the awareness that we need to be outside. Although before I looked this up today, I hadn't heard of this man's name. I had heard the term nature deficit disorder, but that is just about all I had heard. I feel like I have had an experience of that, though, as we stay inside more and more, and as we just are more in tune with the technology. You know, if we just take a walk, if we just get out there. And here's some of his this first article was 2009, and he says it was 4 years after the book. The second article is from 2013, and he's talking about restoring our peace. And what he says is, when it comes to reducing violence in our communities, we talk about gun laws and mental health, treatment and other responses, but one potential tool is seldom mentioned. And we're not, again, pretending that nature is a paragon of peace. Nature can be violent, but while the violence of nature is a fact, this is also true. By assaulting nature, we raise the odds that we will assault each other. By bringing nature into our lives, we invite humility. In the studies that they did, people with less access to nature show relatively poor attention or cognitive function, poor management of major life issues, poor impulse control. And so we want to get outside just for our healing. It's beyond the sun's vitamin D, but breathing in the fresh air. So here's what he says. In some settings, the natural world does have the power to heal human hearts and prevent violence. That statement isn't based on modern romanticism, but on a growing body of mainly correlative scientific evidence with a tight focus on the evidence of nearby nature. Some of the things he says is that if one lives, well, I'm probably going to get to this. So let me just go through his points. He has 6 points. quickly, let's run through those. Green exercise outside, not in a gym, not inside on your treadmill. I have a recumbent, is that what you call it, bike? Not in those places, but outside. Green exercise improves psychological health. There's growing evidence to show that exposure to nature brings substantial mental health benefits. That's according to Green Exercise and Green Care, a report by researchers at the University of Essex. I always want to give credit where credit's due. None of this stuff has originated from me. The second point is that in some cases, greening neighborhoods may help reduce domestic violence among the neighbors as well. So what that's saying is the same apartment building in the middle of cement, if there is one in cement and one surrounded by trees and bushes and grass right near the building, has a significant effect on the violent tendencies of the people who are inside. Are we hearing that? We just need a little patch of green, grow in some plants. Third, natural playgrounds may decrease bullying. Most all of these points have a relevant or corresponding article in Psychology Today if you want to do some more research. Other species, animals, pets, may help children develop empathy. It doesn't say may on his point. Other species help children develop empathy. We've known for decades that children and the elderly are calmed when domestic pets are introduced in therapy or included in rehabilitative or residential care. Using pets and natural environments as a part of the therapy sessions shows a significant improvement for those in that therapy. The fifth point, greater biodiversity, and I had to look that up, as many different kinds of animals as we can have in an environment can increase social and family bonding. Scientists at the University of Sheffield in the UK report that the more species that live in a park, the greater the psychological benefits to human beings. Our research shows that maintaining biodiversity levels is important, not only for the conservation, but also to enhance the quality of life for city residents. As many birds, as many squirrels, all of that we can get into our parks. The sixth point, more nature in our lives can offset the dangerous psychological impact of climate change. If you happen to believe in climate change, which I do, but many do not. Nature can help us deal with these storms that are coming through, with the higher temperatures, with the lower temperatures in the winter. We have both. We have that fluctuation. The norms are getting more extreme, and so nature can help us get through that. We're not powerless in the face of planetary or societal challenges. The societal ones, it seems to me, are we're all staying inside more. People don't know their neighbors. When's the last time you dropped by somebody's house without an invitation? Even family, it's no longer the norm. It's not so welcome sometimes. So we will not be able to prevent every violent tragedy, but we can surely make our lives greener and gentler. And that positive influence may ripple outward in ways we cannot immediately measure or see. One of the things that has recently been added to my routine is the FIA, what do they call it? I can't remember the last, FIA, it's Females in Action. And this particular exercise group, I see somebody's joined us. I have to use my magnifying glass just to see. Good, Cheryl. Thank you for being here. My cousin. Hey. So Females in Action is an exercise group that I have recently been invited to. Didn't have a clue it was out there. That women are meeting in the parks so that they are exercising together, but also out in nature. Thank you, God, out in nature. If you make a comment, I've got to put this up there. You're glad to be here. Thank you. And hi from Georgia. Absolutely. We've been talking about how healing being in nature can be, and how children are affected if they are not in nature, and how that might affect our ability to deal with psychological issues. We are created beings created to be in nature, and we so protect ourselves. I moved into a home after buying it, and the previous owner said to me, "We don't have screens on these windows because whoever opens the windows," she said, "in the winter it's too cold, and in the summer it's too hot, and in the spring and fall they're allergy seasons." She never opens her windows. And haven't we gotten into that that space where we don't always invite the winter, invite the weather inside? So be aware of how much we are in nature. And I'm going to shift now to talk about what for me has been spiritual support from nature. I think it's as true as can be that nature is God's first language. The creation is the very first expression of God's being. And so in some of the work I did with hospice up in Rock Hill, in York County, South Carolina, there's an Indian reservation. The Catawba Indians live on the reservation there. And so as part of my, they were part of the population that we served, and I wanted to be ready to provide support to Native American spirituality. And so I did a number of spiritual workshops. As it turns out, those Catawba Indians were visited by the Mormons years ago, and most of them were Mormon. So, but this so helped me and helped my life. So in the Native, and I feel like if you're traditionally Christian, this is compatible with our Christian beliefs. There's not anything about listening to nature. Think of how God spoke through the burning bush, and how God has spoken through the wind, and how God has spoken through the natural world so often with all of us. And so I found it just entertaining. It's an entertaining way to pay attention to what messages we are getting, if you want to call it from the universe. So be it. We're getting messages from the universe, and there are a number of resources. I did a number of workshops. There's the lower world and the upper world, and we did journeys, meditations. The lower world is the natural world. The upper world is the spirit world. Heaven and earth, that's all it is. Lower, the earth, upper, the spirit. So I got a series of books by Ted Andrews, and this it shows up backwards if I show it to you. So, but there are 3 of these books that I recommend for reference, because if a particular, let me back up just a little bit. Carolyn Mays teaches that if we visit, we view our life as if it's a metaphor, and look at the patterns that continue to show up. That is one of the ways that our angels can speak to us, that those that the universe can speak to us, that our heart and our we can receive these messages. And how entertaining is nature. So here's some of the things that in Native American spirituality, there's such a thing as a spirit animal. You can do exercises that are meditations and see what animal the Holy brings to you. For me, this is all work of the Holy Spirit. It's so, and in one of those workshops, there have been two, I would say, supernatural or not normal, not in our normal life. I don't want to use a word, it's not really at any rate, spiritual experiences that have been very clear to me in my life. One was a visit from my mother the day she died, before I knew that she had died. That's a story for another time. The second was I was at this workshop and we were doing this exercise called walking the animals. And our job was in this darkened, basically it was a gym of a camp. Walking around the gym, we were to invite, in my world, the Holy, invite the universe to bring to us an animal that was to be our spiritual animal, our spirit guide, our, the Native Americans call it totem. This is not the idolizing an animal. This is just another language that God can speak to us, an entertaining one. So I'm walking the animals, not expecting anything, because I've done so many of these workshops where things were invited and nothing happened, except I was in meditation for however long they said. So I'm walking. I'm walking the animals. I'm running out of charge, so I'm going to run through this really quickly. And my legs began to be heavier than you can believe. I ended up not even being able to move except my hands and my feet. And the sounds of a whale were coming from my vocal cords. This was not something I was doing. For me, it was a visit from the spirit of this God-created whale. So I have followed the whale and the humpback whale, and I've been whale watching, and it's always an incredibly moving experience. That's part of my experience. But also in nature, if like today I saw the hawk coming in after the squirrel, maybe looking at the hawk and the squirrel and just seeing what these books have to say. One is called Animals Speak. That's the first book. Ted Andrews. He's got some other woo-woo stuff out there. Let me see. Oh, thanks. Thank you. It's kind of out there, but it's the truth. So Cheryl's thanking me for my story. Animals Speak, Animal Wise, and Nature Speak. These are the ones that are about nature. And in Animal Speak, there are a lot of different birds. And in my life, in the last 5 days, there have been 3 crows that are hanging out in the yard where I live. And so looking up crows and seeing what that's about. And when you look it up, there's some, if they're biblical references, they're there. But they're also, if they're in Chinese mythology, Native American mythology, Greek, the Celtic have tons of nature references. And so you can kind of discern if you're reading your life like a metaphor and this animal keeps showing up. Now, if you live in an area where there's squirrels in the trees every day, that's not so significant and that might not be a message for you. But if, as happened to me one day, I was riding down the road and a squirrel fell onto the windshield, there's a significant visit by a squirrel. Here's another thing that happened to me. I was dating a man and we kept seeing raccoons. And we went to a place and drew a stone and it had a raccoon. One of those, I don't know, tourist trap places that have those stones with the animals. I went home and looked that baby up and it said Hidden Secrets And I'll be darned if he was not who he said he was. And I thought back to that experience of getting those raccoons in our relationship time when we were together, and I in a date or in a when we take side trips, day trips. If I had paid attention and the message was coming, this is somebody who's not who he says he is, and I didn't hear it, and so I had to learn that the hard way. I'm running out of charge, and I apologize for that, but this is not as long as some of the others. If you just spend time in nature, breathing in the air, noticing what is in your yard around you. I'm a part of a hiking group, and I cannot tell you every month that I'm out for those, and these are sometimes 2-hour hikes, 5 to 8 miles, with others. The relationships with the people that you're walking with are enhanced by nature, and your own lives. I come back from that refreshed in a way I can't even describe. It's a healing, especially a healing from our everyday lives. And so the recommendation, and Cheryl has a comment, the messages come. We just have to be accepting of the messengers. Yes, and if we close ourselves off from all that the Holy can speak to us through all kinds of ways, in service of our health and wholeness. Speak to us through our dreams. We haven't had that talk yet, but through our dreams, through our so many ways. Please let nature be one of those. It's God's first language. And so we can be supported by that. We need to be supported in this day and time by as many places and things as we can be. Having a pet is another way to do that. Having animals in your life, loving them and having them love you. What a joy, what a gift. And so there's so many resources about this. But I hope you will take a look at Ted Andrews' material. It is so rich. There's material about what kind of environment you live in, what kind of environment you might visit, the different animals and how if this animal has showed up, then you might want to be watching out for these things. The messages come in so many ways. And I hope this is a message for you so that you can be more in touch with our Mother Earth, with Gaia, with the love that God shows us in this home, this environment. They say the earth itself is alive, that it knows when we're walking. It knows when we're taking steps. Isn't that a powerful image? To feel that presence of the earth supporting us, supporting our feet, even as we walk. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And I'm so appreciative, Cheryl, of your being here and others. As you join in, please feel free to comment as we go along so that we can have some follow-up conversations, chats about the things. You're so welcome for my presence. And this is from my heart to yours. Good night.